Almost 6 million American adults have bipolar disorder, a serious form of depression. Today we're learning about exciting new research that's happening in Michigan to improve and save lives. Let's talk about it.
Welcome to My Healthy Mind. I'm Michael Hunter, and this is Elizabeth Atkins. Each week on My Healthy Mind, we invite guests to talk about mental health issues that people are often reluctant to talk about in public. Our guests include mental health experts along with people who have triumphed over mental health issues. Today we're talking with Dr. John Graydon, Executive Director of the University of Michigan Comprehensive Depression Center, and Wally Prechter, wife of the late Heinz Prechter, who established the Heinz C. Prechter Bipolar Research Fund at the Depression Center.
Michael, we're going to talk about how their efforts are helping to raise awareness about depression, including bipolar disorder, which is one of the most severe forms of depression. We'll also learn how the Depression Center became the first center of excellence for depressive disorders and is helping to grow other centers of excellence throughout North America.
Later in our show, viewers will also meet Brian Timlin, who has had bipolar disorder for more than 40 years. He's part of the research and advocacy campaign for the Heinz C. Prechter Bipolar Research Fund at the Depression Center. And Brian's going to talk to us about the book he's writing to benefit the Heinz C. Prechter Research Fund.
Michael, let's help our guests break the stigma of depression. Let's talk about it. Please join us after the break.
Stress, depression, and severe mental illness can happen to anyone. Team Mental Health Services has been helping those struggling with these conditions in southeastern Michigan. Within 24 hours of reaching out to our team, members receive psychiatric evaluations and begin the necessary treatment for recovery.
Towards the 6th court date, I finally stood up and said, I can handle this process the rest of the way. And it was all because of the motivation and encouragement I got from Team Mental Health staff.
Team Mental Health Services, because we care and you can.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
So you see, son, good manners are important. Should I go through it again?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, excuse me, sit up straight, hold doors open for ladies. If the door's locked, knock first. Don't burp, don't swear, don't stare, don't use bad language, or talk with your mouth full. Keep your elbows off the table.
What table?
And don't interrupt. Cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. On the bus, give your seat up to anybody who has trouble standing. Bottom line, treat others the way you want to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
Good talk.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
Welcome back to My Healthy Mind. We're very pleased to introduce two of today's special guests, Wally Prechter, founder of the Heinz C. Prechter Bipolar Research Fund at the University of Michigan Depression Center, and Dr. John Graydon, who is the Executive Director of the Depression Center. Mrs. Prechter, we understand that you've known Dr. Graydon for a very long time, and that you and your husband, the late Heinz Prechter, were instrumental in helping Dr. Graydon open the Depression Center. Can you please tell us how you met Dr. Graydon and why you encouraged him to start the Depression Center?
Our daughter became ill with depression in the fall of 1998, and she received treatment at the University of Michigan. And then in spring of 1999, Heinz told me, well, let's show our gratitude and find out what we can do for Michigan. So we went up to meet Dr. Graydon that spring, and he had the thought, why is there not a depression center? We have cancer centers. And so he had that thought in the first place, I guess. And we sat down and thought it over and ended up giving seed money for the concept of the Depression Center.
And Dr. Graydon, how did the passing of Heinz Prechter impact the goals of the Depression Center?
The vision was actually aided by the interactions that I had with Heinz and Wally and Stephanie. We met and we talked about what was needed. And if I can recall it accurately, Heinz had a great quote. He said, could you tell us about depression, bipolar illnesses, tell us what Michigan brings to the story, and make a proposal. So the proposal actually was shaped with a little bit of exchange, and ultimately we put it together, and I came back and presented it to Heinz, Wally, and Stephanie.
And the Depression Center is a center for excellence, which is a term that's used in a variety of industries. So can you tell us how it applies to the Depression Center?
Yes. So the proposal was, let's design a center that brings people together from different disciplines, and a few principles that I actually remember presenting to Heinz and Wally. These disorders start young. Most people don't know that, but 15 to 24 is the starting age when symptoms begin. It's the peak, so we should be starting young. Second, we needed better treatments, so we needed a lot of new research to understand the multiple causes. Third, we needed to have strategies for maintaining wellness. And to do any of those three things, we needed to overcome stigma. Still wasn't talked about. And then finally, one of the proposals that I made, and I'm very glad we incorporated it and that Heinz and Wally and others endorsed it, I can remember saying one center will never be enough. Cancer has 30s and 40s of these around the country, and we've got to start a national network. Why can't Michigan do that? So that became the fifth mission statement, and I think that probably fits with your recollection.
That's correct, yes.
Mrs. Prechter, can you tell us more about your husband's experience with bipolar disorder?
Well, he needed very little sleep. He could function on 3-4 hours of sleep and had tremendous energy. He had tremendous imagination and vision, and he could imagine things that he saw on a drawing board. He could imagine them in real life. He was going so fast. He had 3 secretaries, and we had to go out every night and so forth, and it would affect me. I would end up getting sick, physically sick, because I could not follow his speed. On the other hand, he had 3 really bad episodes of depression that would paralyze him down to a chair where he wouldn't move for 8 hours at a time. And in his last episode, he died by suicide. So after that, I created a fund to help raise money to give away into genetics of bipolar, because I felt I had to do something. And I moved that fund over in 2004 to the University of Michigan Depression Center, where it sits today, and it's a natural fit because depression and bipolar go together. And obviously, I've been working together with Dr. Graydon and our scientist and researcher, Dr. McGinnis, and the Prechter Fund, the Heinz Prechter Bipolar Research Fund, today has as a mission to find strategies and better treatments and ultimately personalized treatment for people who have this illness.
Mm-hmm. We're so happy that you're here because by personalizing the story and putting a face and a name to the term bipolar and telling stories about how it manifests, it enables us to demystify what is bipolar, what happens to a person. So was your husband getting treatment? What did you do when he was sitting there for 8 hours?
In his first years, he did not get treatment. I think it was stigmatization. He stigmatized himself, to be very honest. And later on, he did get treatment, but he died. And it does happen. The suicide rate in bipolar is very high. 1 in 5 will commit suicide.
1 in 5?
Yes.
And so your family rallied around him,
Yes.
but he ended up committing suicide, and you took up the cause, and now
Yes.
you're doing a great thing for it. Thank you very much for that. After a short break, we're going to continue our conversation and talk about research being done to help people with bipolar disorder. We'll be right back.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science. After that, I'm going to get my law degree. Then I'm going to come back to Detroit, boost the economy, become the mayor or something, try to make the situation better for other people. I feel like I owe it to the city. I'm determined. It's going to happen. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
Maybe he's really focused.
Hey, Michael. Michael. Maybe he likes spinning the wheels.
Maybe he just loves trucks.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Preoccupation with objects is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Welcome back to My Healthy Mind. We're here with Wally Prechter of the Heinz C. Prechter Bipolar Research Fund and Dr. John Graydon, Executive Director of the University of Michigan Comprehensive Depression Center. Dr. Graydon, can you tell us more about the symptoms and types of bipolar disorder and how it differs from other forms of depression?
Yes, it's an important differentiation. So the symptoms of the mild forms of bipolar illness turn out to be abundant energy. I don't need as much sleep. Wally, I think, would describe Heinz this way. There's passion, there's vision, there's I have a terrific idea and I can't wait to take it on, 4 o'clock in the morning, and things of that nature. Thoughts race faster as it gets more severe. Sometimes the decisions get impaired. The interpersonal relationships may get strained. They can be a little bit abrupt. They don't want interruptions. There can be some irritability. And in the real extreme, when they get manic, the thoughts may be abnormal. Nobody knows what else is going on in the world. I should be the ones to tell them. And the severity is such that they sometimes make bad judgments. That extreme is a gradation. It's something that in the initial stages, everything looks special. Later on, it's really problematic. And the depressions, when they hit, can come on suddenly. People will just go through a quick transition. And then it's the classic symptoms of depression, of mood, and I can't sleep or I sleep too much. Appetite goes away. I don't want to do anything. I'm a failure. Negative view of the world, of what's happening. And that's actually when thoughts of suicide and I don't want to go on living will often enter in. So it's the switches and the swings between those two extremes lead to the word bipolar, two directions.
And why the high incidence of suicide?
What we do know, that's a wonderful question. We wish we had the answer. The pattern of suicide deaths, tragic, is about 75 to 80% linked with depressions or bipolar illnesses. What we don't know is what sends people over the edge to really say, I'm not going to go on. And that's the piece that we need more research on. We should be able to identify what are the risk variables. Can we find out what clues may be going on biochemically or with the stress responses? That's actually a lot of the focus of the Depression Center and the Prechter Bipolar Fund.
And earlier you mentioned, Dr. Graydon, that the Depression Center is there really for that purpose, to really become that center of excellence, to drill down and get those answers. Mrs. Prechter, can you tell us what the vision is for the Heinz Prechter Research Fund at the Depression Center?
What I envision is for it to be the fund where the research is being done in the country, where we have the largest repository of longitudinal, genetic, clinical data and biological data that we collect and disseminate all across the world to all scientists. So we can find out, how do we detect the illness earlier? How do we prevent it? How do we treat it right? And how do we ultimately come up with personalized treatment for people so they can live good lives? That's my vision, to be the eminent place in the country for research, for all research regarding bipolar.
That's awesome. And so, Dr. Graydon, what are some of the scientific accomplishments that we've done so far?
Some of the more exciting ones are probably not being done almost anywhere else. So the starting point might be one that talks about how can we tell what's going on in the genetic infrastructure? And there's a wonderful project that Dr. McInnes and Dr. O'Shea have been doing where you take a skin biopsy. And through Nobel-winning steps that were done in Japan, you can convert a skin culture back into a stem cell culture, starting from a piece of skin. Then you make it go backwards, and you can make it turn into a certain kind of cell, bone cell, muscle cell, but also neurons. Now we can study those neurons and actually determine, are they going to respond differently to, for example, lithium for this person versus this person. That's getting to personalized treatment. What a breakthrough that will be. And to make one more comment, just think of how if we have those tests, those lab tests that say, this is what's going on with you, this is the treatment that it's most likely to respond to, watch stigma totally go out the door.
Yeah.
That is fascinating, Dr. Graydon. Fascinating, and it's exciting to hear that the U of M Depression Center is pioneering this kind of research. Next, we're going to meet one of your biggest advocates, Brian Timlin. He's been battling bipolar disorder for most of his life, and he's receiving treatment at the Depression Center. In addition, he's participating in research at the Heinz C. Prechter Bipolar Research Fund.
Dr. Graydon, Mrs. Prechter, thank you so much for joining us today. Your wonderful story is so inspiring and definitely will impact a lot of lives, and you're doing great work. We'll be back in a few moments to meet Brian Timlin, who will share his journey with bipolar disorder.
Stress, depression, and severe mental illness can happen to anyone. Team Mental Health Services has been helping those struggling with these conditions in southeastern Michigan. Within 24 hours of reaching out to our team, members receive psychiatric evaluations and begin the necessary treatment for recovery.
Towards the 6th court date, I finally stood up and said, I can handle this process the rest of the way. And it was all because of the motivation and encouragement I got from Team Mental Health staff.
Team Mental Health Services, because we care and you can.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
I come from a big family. I'm the oldest of 6. To me, being the first person to go to college, it's like setting a standard, you know? My little brother is 8 years old now. I challenge his curiosity. I challenge him to dream. I have to paint a picture for him that he can look up to and live up to and possibly be better than. My name is Jaquez, and I am your dividend.
Welcome back to My Healthy Mind. Earlier in our program, we talked with Dr. John Graydon, Executive Director of the University of Michigan Comprehensive Depression Center, and Wally Prechter, founder of the Heinz C. Prechter Bipolar Research Fund at the Depression Center. Now we're pleased to welcome Brian Timlin, a Michigan businessman who has suffered from bipolar disorder for a number of years.
40 years.
Welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us how you became such an advocate for the Depression Center.
In 2013, I was coming out of a manic episode and a failed suicide attempt. My wife said, Brian, you gotta find something that's gonna resonate with your soul and your mind, and something that you're gonna find to help you. And I remember Heinz Prechter, the story. He was my hero when I was growing up in the 70s and the 80s. He's a visionary, and I Googled him, and it led me to the Michigan Depression Center. So I met with Courtney Rawlings, a resident, and Dr. Kamali. He said, I really want you, I think you could be a valuable asset to this research facility. I want you to be my patient. And I'll never forget, they said, Brian, you do have meaning in your life. And there's 3 things we want you to do. We want you to be an advocate for yourself. We want you to be an advocate for bipolar research. And we want you to be an advocate for the University of Michigan Depression Center and the Heinz-Prechter Fund. And that resonated with me. And from that moment in 2013, I'm a survivor and I want to tell that story to millions of people.
And you're doing that by writing a book.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
My book is called 16 Sitters. And in 2009, when I was in the hospital on my first suicide attempt, I was a high-risk patient on the medical floor while they were treating me. So they assigned 16 sitters to me. And they sit bedside with you and watch over you so that you don't, because you're high risk still. So the book is the story of my life. The 40 years of bipolar depression is told through the 16 sitters' voices, because I talked to them and I was telling them passages I was going through my life. And I want to use those funds to benefit the University of Michigan Bipolar Depression Center, the Heinz-Prechter Research Fund, and to reach out to people around the globe and really tell my story and help people save people's lives.
And Brian, you're so courageous and in your ability to express this, and you wanted to share with us the thoughts that were going through your head before you tried to kill yourself. Can you share with us those thoughts that made you feel like you had to end everything?
It's pretty simple. My mind was racing. I was irritable, like I said, loud, no sleep for days. Nothing meant anything anymore. I had no purpose, you know what I mean? And, but yet I had 3 beautiful kids to live for. A daughter who's 30 now, a son who's 27, and a son who's 21, a beautiful wife of 38 years. And to throw that away is a last-ditch effort. You got to be pretty desperate, you know what I mean? So that brings me to my topic that I really want to discuss here, and that's the Peoria app.
And that Peoria is the app that
It's the
is
app.
being developed at the research center.
Right. It's being further developed, which I'm proud to say, through Detroit Labs here. So it can be on the iPhone platform as well and publicly available, okay? Right now it's in the research stages, okay? But the app's going to allow people to be notified, your caregivers, your psychiatrists, your loved ones, people who are on your list. There's a pending episode occurring. I believe that suicide can be prevented. Okay, it needs to be managed, though. We can manage depression. We can't cure it right now. Genetics is not quite there, but we're working on that. But we surely can prevent suicide, I believe.
And the app is going to detect what in order to give you
What it does is this. They get my baseline, and then what they do, they take that app, and if I'm depressed, I talk slower, I'm more quiet. There's long pauses between things. I'm depressed. When I'm in mania, I'm talking loud and racing thoughts, and so it detects that, and so it can warn people of an impending episode, whether it's manic or whether it's depressive.
That's awesome. Brian, thank you so much for being here today. Your courageous journey is inspiring, even sitting here. So I know our viewers appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and I want to thank the University of Michigan literally for saving my life.
And after the break will be an opportunity for you, our viewers, to let us know how inspiring Brian's story was for you, as well as the information that we learned from Dr. Graydon and Mrs. Prechter. So make sure you're here after the break.
Everywhere that we go, he makes people laugh and makes people smile, and I feel like I have that quality.
He's the one who always takes me fishing.
I watch golf with him. And
I watch him cook, because when I grow up, I want to be a cook too.
We have the same faces like this.
Dad is the one, when you fall, that picks you up.
That unconditional sense of presence and reassurance is really what makes him my father.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought, and unconventional methods common. I'm a teacher. I make more.
Welcome back. We hope today's show has helped you learn more about bipolar disorder and what's being done to help people with this disease. If it has helped you understand, we encourage you to send us an email or message us on Facebook. Michael, what struck you the most powerfully about today's show?
Elizabeth, today's show was moving to me when I think about how fascinating the research progress is and where they're trying to go. When Mrs. Proctor was saying that they're taking cells and trying to trace it all the way back to understand who may have a predisposition to the disease so that they can have the treatments readily available for that person, unique to that person, not cookie cutter, that really, really moved me. And the fact that she's so generous and is trying to do something so worthwhile.
Yes, very powerful.
And what struck you?
Well, I was really fascinated, Michael, about how technology innovations are helping people have better health and wellness and actually saving lives. Because first, Dr. Graydon talked about a bipolar person's mood swings, and sometimes they talk really fast and sometimes they're real slow, and that when they wear the apparatus on their wrist, the Priori, or when they use their cell phone app, and we all have a cell phone in our hand all the time, right? And this app that Brian was talking about actually measures your speech patterns. And if your speech patterns get out of whack, indicating that you're being manic or depressive, it will send a text message and alert your loved ones and your medical team to indicate there's a problem and intervention is required. That is amazing that technology can help us like that.
It is amazing. And Elizabeth, that's just a peek to what's on the horizon. We have so much to look forward to, and I can't wait. Before we close today, we want to remind you that no topic about mental health and wellness are off limits on our show. What do you want us to talk about? Contact us and let us know. Be sure to visit us on Facebook, on Twitter, email us, visit our website, myhealthymind.com, where you'll find helpful resources, including those mentioned on today's show. When you contact us, rest assured we keep your information private. We can't wait to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.